Panel participants are ready. So we switch over to the very important thing in the creation of this agentic state. We invite here Alexander Barnikov, Deputy Minister of Digital Transformation Ukraine, also Danilo Brasilovsky, NDP Project Manager. Also Danila Mikhail Research Product, the Ministry of Digital Transformation. The representatives of the government of Estonia as well.
So, Danilo has already set the stage by presenting our draft vision for Ukraine's AI strategy. And now we're going to open up some of those topics a little bit. And I'm also going to say, this is a preview. If you want to know a whole lot more about what we're doing, in the afternoon we have a 3-hour session on the draft AI strategy and how that's going to bring us toward this vision of an agentic state and an AI nation. So make sure you come to that too. But look, we have some really important key players on the stage. Danilo, you've already heard introduced, but I also want to mention that we have here, first of all, Alexander Bornikov, who has been deputy minister now for 6 years, started a whole great many programs here in Ukraine, and also owns AI as a topic. Anna Bulach from Google really has driven a lot of the collaboration that is making the agentic state happen in practice, so we'll hear about that in a minute. And finally, Volodymyr Brasilovsky is sort of the brain behind a lot of how the overall transformation in digital services is happening right now in Ukraine. And so you're not an AI native, but you have to deal with AI because it's dealing with you. I want to start with a few reflections on the strategic vision that Danilo presented. So first of all, Alexander, how do you relate this overall vision for Ukraine's level of AI adoption, top 3 in the world by 2030 that Mikhailo presented, that Danilo talked about, with the more specific focus on the agentic state? And what does this shift entail? How does the agentic state sort of support this broader vision?
When you say relay, you mean how we communicate it to the world? Well, I think that this was most amazing part from my standpoint, because we, as a country, I think have a chance to become transcender of certain way for next decades how government services must be conducted, how they must be implemented, and this is something like, I can compare it with the iPhone. When first time this concept of the phone was, I think the iPhone first was created, everyone was like, okay, why phone has a screen? Where are the buttons? And I think we in Ukraine are pretty much in this stage when we say government services won't be done by a way that you get used to. This is the new way. This is this phone without buttons. This is where you just use device to tell something, and then very complex mechanism provide you with the service, not asking additional question. But when even if he asks additional questions, they simple to understand and very easy to answer in the first place. And I think when the world gonna see this, how it works, and that's where Danilo, Volodymyr helping us to make it happen, I think the world is gonna like it. So, and I think that opens a lot of possibilities from a political standpoint, from an economical standpoint, for Ukraine to be seen in the world as this, I don't know, big visionary, utilizing this technology for the good of people.
So, Anna, Ukraine's not the only country to have a bold vision for AI, right? And we say top 3 in the world, but there's a lot of other countries that want to be top 3 in the world. Give us, first of all, positively, what is Ukraine doing differently, or what are the unique advantages Ukraine has that could give us a leg up? But also, if you want to say critically, what are the challenges or the sort of very hard things that we actually have to get right in the next 5 years if we want to have a shot at that top 3 goal?
So, like, what does Ukraine do right? Internally, like, in perspective of Google, when Google looks at Ukraine, or you want to ask, like, from which perspective, from which angle?
Well, I think Google has a global perspective on what countries across the world are doing on AI, right? So what is Ukraine doing different, or what is Ukraine doing well that gives us the leg up?
Yeah. I think it's a combination of many things. Ukraine has did really right on this transition of digitalization, and then its natural transition on adopting artificial intelligence. And this transition and where Google has been a partner along the way, because it didn't happen just in one day. Google has been a partner on providing upskilling and digitalization, and a lot of upskilling and knowledge. Like, for example, a lot of those might be boring for some, but really important upskilling courses for small and medium enterprises, for school, for teachers, providing those digitalization tools, how to use workspace environment. And then when in workspace environment, those Gmail and documents, when AI appeared, how to use those Gemini and how to integrate it in your daily work. So it's like that step by step and daily work of providing this upskilling to the final user, like to the B2C, to the B2B, to the B2G, has been taking years as a partnership with the government that brought us here today, where we can already iterate on really grand scheme, I would say, plotting of what we can do grand around agentic AI and agentic state. It does not happen just like this in one click. You have to work on really across many sectors. So I think that's what Ukraine has did really right and really differently. And also providing this policy space of bottom-up approach, of going the right way, of looking at what has to be done safely, because also, on educating on ethical approach of deploying artificial intelligence, on cybersecurity, where we've also been partnering and providing more information on how to work with AI, how to work in cyberspace, information sharing. And I think what to do right as a next step, I think it's to understand how to build these resources right and to put them into right projects. Because right now there are many projects will be on iteration. Okay, let's try to put AI here, there, and we have to really make quick decisions that here is the scalability, and we see that we put resources here because resources are really scarce, and here's a really core thing of partnering between private sector and public sector, where we see the vision can achieve and outreach to those 23 million people in 1 year, that they will really see the value of this application of agentic AI service.
Very interesting. Now, let's go from the conceptual to the much more practical. We've got Dia AI. It's already won a world record, but let's be clear, it's the start of a journey. Volodymyr, if you look at what Ukraine has done successfully over the last 5 years with Dia, hundreds of services, this completely different approach to user centricity, how is Dia AI going to continue that and change that? Is it more of the same with the new technology on top, or is this a real fundamental paradigm shift?
Yeah, got it. We in UNDP working with Ministry of Digital Transformation sort of very close, practically in a way same team, and what we've done over the years with Dia and digital reforms and the general digitalization of public services is to trying to basically change how government work to make sure it's optimized, and the personal businesses that actually sort of forced to interact with government receive the good services, the easy service that sort of is understandable how to use and is predictable in a way what the results of the services is. And what we hope, and of course we had some success, and DIA has 23 million active users, and we have, I believe, 1 million daily active users and around 10 million monthly active users, which is actually big numbers. And what we really hope the AI will deliver is twofold. The first one, we really hope it will drastically and revolutionarily simplify way how citizen and business deals with government. We hope that AI will be in a way proxy between sort of complexities and sort of very intricately stuff of governments and government, and sort of easy public services and easy government processes. So this is one. And the second one is we, as Mikhail Fedorov said, is we understand that the number of challenges that we have to deal with is much greater than our capacity to actually do something about it. And we really hope that AI will help us tackle several sort of streams of this work. So technical streams, we really hope that based on no-code or low-code solution powered by AI, our sort of technical development, integration, testing or whatever will be much more sort of faster or simpler or cheaper or whatever. The second part is analysis, business analysis, system analysis, and basically re-engineering of public services. We want to build a model that actually help us to do that, and even we want to build a model that with Danilo help and the AI Center of Excellence help, that hopefully help us to tackle digital legal re-engineering of legal acts, of laws, and acts of cabinet of ministries, and so whatever, to also make it more agile, more faster to adaptation. Because in our mind, we don't do actually digitalization. What we do is reforms. We change how government works. And this is, without AI, we fear that our work would not be successful. So for us, AI is not new shiny toys that we want to play with. It's sort of critical component for our success in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. So Anna, let's talk then about some of the tech behind this critical deployment. DAI operates on the Gemini 2.0 Flash model. Can you tell us, sort of from Google's perspective, why this is significant, and how do you see this technology contributing to the success of DAI in the long run, and more generally to the digital transformation of Ukraine?
Well, the backstory of how we landed here with Gemini is actually Gemma, one of the central team members, they came to me, and we were looking in how to with this vision to prioritize those languages that were not in priority list. And this is where Ukraine, when it's showing its leadership in digital sphere, how it leads in digital innovation on national level, it helped me to build a story how to put this priority language on a list where Gemma was released in Ukrainian language, was uptaken with developers community in Ukraine, and then how Gemini was transformed into this really success story of providing these really great outputs in Ukrainian language, and we started to pilot it and in GovTech directions. So the key for Google here is equality, is to see how we can grow with our partners. It's not just to see we give out the technology. It's about we see that the nation is so digitized, that the nation is so AI-driven, that the nation is so tech-driven, that it's ready to uptake this technology that with our passion we are putting on priority list and then piloting those projects. And I think this is the core success story when we are ready to put our internal resources to drive and improve our models together with the government that is ready to drive and to see where it can lead further. And this is just a first step.
So I want to ask Danilo, you've built an incredible product on top of Gemini, and I know you've had good collaboration with Google, but Ukraine is also building with Kyivstar a national LLM. And could you just open for us a little bit? I mean, how are these different? How do they solve different problems? Do they complement each other? Why not just build everything on Google? What do we get from also building our own model here, having the sovereign infrastructure that the Deputy Prime Minister talked about?
Yeah, thank you. It's a really good question. So it's important to understand that we want to create a really smart approach by using cloud capacities, cloud compute, and the capacity of our internal AI sovereignty, let's say AI factory. So we understand it depends on different cases. So in which case, in some cases, we can allow use providers compute. In such cases, we need to use on-premise models. So we want to combine this approach, and that's why, from the point of view of building AI sovereign model, we now in the products with collaboration with Kyivstar of creating a national large language model, which will include Ukrainian context, which will be secure and which will be best option for use for an instance in such cases of government or such cases in defense, tech. But at the same time, we understand that we will provide the pre-train on some base model, but the base foundation model, it's something that created by the big tech company. That's why we are eager to collaborating with a big tech company like Google, and we truly believe that the hybrid approach of combining these both options will bring the most value for us and the most flexibility to operate with different types of models that we have on the market.
So, Volodymyr, we also heard that Ukraine is building an AI factory. This often gets put under the label of digital sovereignty or AI sovereignty. I find the sovereignty word is very vague. It's a Rorschach test. One person thinks one thing, another thinks a different thing. But for me, the most powerful element of sovereignty is that you have authorship and control, and that you sort of really understand the full stack of this technology. So can you maybe talk about what the AI factory is going to do and how that will create this sort of full stack understanding, really from the hardware up to the very sort of abstract, agentic fancy ideas within the Ukrainian ecosystem, so that we can be a major global center of production contributor to the global ecosystem?
Yeah, so in a way, AI factory, which by the way is basically on-premise infrastructure that Ukraine will fully control, and so all the data will be on our in our control, is in a way a reaction of the need to adopt AI technology in the spheres where data is extremely the requirements for data protection is extreme. So defense tech and some other spheres that actually requires us to have on some on-premise solutions. So in a way, it's reactive. So basically, we're reacting of the situation where we need to have this. In second part, which is in my point more important, is to if we understand that AI has potential, and possibly some say is this potential is assured to have the effect on society in what early internet will had effect in early 2000s. If you say that this is true, then the country does not control its own AI models, will not provide its citizens for some way of models that actually could be influenced by the government or people of this country. Then the future of this country is have a lot of questions, because as we know, Russia is not going anywhere, unfortunately. So in a way, I think strategically this is much more not technical, much more long term. To have listen, Ukraine will not be just a user of products that somebody else will develop. Will not just our citizens will not just be relying on technical giant or other countries that provide this service. We will have our own AI competency. We will raise our own AI people who could be product managers, who could build, who could code, who could build models, who could provide services, and we will provide also. And we as a country will take with our partners, with Kyivstar, with Google, with other partners, will take a first big step and invest in this idea of having our own sort of AI sort of presence, if you could say. So sort of from practical standpoint, I would say it's much more sort of reactive. On strategic standpoint, it's much more sort of hopeful and bid for the to be subject in AI future, you would say. Thank you.
So if you took this ambition to most European countries and started talking with startups and technology companies in Brussels or Paris or even in Tallinn, you'd very quickly get the feedback, this is all nice and good, we'd like to do this too, but we have regulation. We have the policy environment, the AI Act and other things around that. Ukraine has had now for a few years a regulatory approach conceptually of a bottom-up, what we call a bottom-up approach, that we want to have our companies working on responsible AI, but we also need to have this iterative learning approach to how that regulatory environment works. Alex, if you could sort of describe that to our audience, and then talk about what the feedback's been. I mean, what do we see as evidence today? What's the impact of this sort of bottom-up learning approach to companies in Ukraine? Is it empowering, as we hope, them to do interesting innovation? And then to ask critically, how is this going to converge with the EU AI Act, which we are going to have to follow as an EU member?
Well, they've created, the Act, and it was set in power in, I think, August 2024, like more than a year ago. And I think their idea was that they're going to create some sort of like a benchmark for the future legislation to the whole world, not just us. And we will see how it works out, but it gives us time actually to really see how it's performing. And of course we study it. And we understand that it puts pressure in terms of like compliance, business assessment, sort of my like internal procedures, and those sort of things that I have to follow certain rules in technology sphere where I'm just developing something, I don't know, and this is my vision, but in the same time I have to comply with something. So, and I think that's the major reason why companies are complaining. But I don't think it's bad. I think, well, first of all, my vision is that any legislation that stands in front of quickly developing new technology might slow this innovation. So I think we are lucky that we still not in European Union. We're not subject to obey AI Act, but we have time to prepare. And what we see now that we have created this white paper explaining what kind of procedures you have to follow, what you need to, how to assess your, for example, level of risk of your solution, because that's the part of AI Act legislation, and you can be prepared. Moreover, we've created an AI sandbox, and I'm surprised that we actually have more companies joining in. So our pace of joining companies to sandbox even faster than in Europe. So this is the sign that in Ukraine, number of AI companies that care about their ethical and responsible use of AI even more than in Europe. And that actually was a good sign for me, that I realized that generally we have a more vibrant AI ecosystem than in most countries in Europe. And we think our mission is to give them understanding of what is waiting for them. And sandbox and bottom-up approach with this white paper and this guidance are, I think they're really helping. They make a difference. So maybe they're just using this opportunity. If you're a company, definitely join the Sandbox. We're going to help you to understand and navigate and be ready for this regulation. Because I think with our course to European Union, at some point in 2027 or 2028, we're going to create Ukrainian AI Act. That this will be the law eventually.
So very briefly, Anna, one of the things that Ukraine will have to start doing, of course, is not just adopting EU law, but contributing to EU law and be an active voice in Brussels on what the regulatory environment thinks for AI should look like. What can Ukraine start doing now to have its voice heard better internationally? What should our key messages be? How should we join that European and global conversation?
Yeah, I think this is a really important one because from this partnership between Google and Ukrainian government that we have, and what we see is that what we are doing right now is just not simple AI integration in GovTech services, right? It's iterating and building, seeing the trust in artificial intelligence and how it can be applied in public services. So how the final customer as a citizen is trusting to artificial intelligence and how we interact with it, what are the edges, and how we testing it. So as Ukraine has all this experience and expertise, it's really important right now, what we are trying to do is to bring this case regionally and globally, bringing it, like for example, Estonia has built really successful brand, and I spent so much time in Estonia in my previous career path of cyber country, of cyber leadership country. Ukraine is digital and AI leader country. It is so important to bring this knowledge to Brussels, but also to bring the know-how of what are the lessons learned about implementation of AI, and implement it and read it out in how those feedbacks can be learned into the feedbacks of AI Act as well. Why is it important? Because right now the conversation across Europe is also how to make a tech ecosystem and in general economy is more competitive. And is actually what in the AI strategy in Ukraine is to boost competitiveness by digitalization and implementation of AI, is to boost competitiveness of digital sector of Ukraine. That's why to provide it more flexibility. That's why to educate it more on ethical boundaries, on security, for them to feel more confident to go on foreign markets, right? So I think those are really, really valuable lessons. But how to make it practical is to actually start learning how to behave in Brussels bureaucracy, right? And I think to start building those things already, but it's not our position to advise. It's already we are just partners, and we always remain as partners. But we are ready to onboard this path with you and to go there. Yeah.
Thank you. How to behave and sometimes how to misbehave in Brussels. But that's for a different discussion. Look, what you've heard today, both from Danilo, with a brief preview of the strategy in this discussion, is that Ukraine is a country with a vision and a plan, with concrete actions and a big important contribution to make to Europe and the world on AI and the transformation of key sectors. If you want to hear more about this, we look forward to seeing you on the third floor from about 2 p.m. But for now, please give all of our panelists a big hand, both for what they've said today and their work they're doing every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah.